So Liz Cheney, as we mentioned, on the verge of losing her leadership post for taking on the big lie that Trump somehow won the election. Today, our friend Kara Swisher spoke to GOP pollster Frank Luntz on her New York Times podcast called Sway. They talked about the big lie and its impact moving forward.
More than two-thirds of Republicans believe that the election was stolen.
So it's working. This big lie thing is working.
It is working. I think the greater impact that, okay, I haven't said this before, this could cost the Republicans the majority in the House in 2022. What Donald Trump is saying is actually telling people it's not worth it to vote. Donald Trump single-handedly may cause people not to vote.
Here with us to talk about it tonight, Jason Johnson, campaign veteran, journalist, contributor over at the GRIO, professor of politics and journalism at Morgan State University, and Mike Murphy, veteran Republican strategist, co-director of the Center for the Political Future at the University of Southern California. In his spare time, he is co-host of the superb podcast called Hacks on Tap. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to you both. Mike, so much to ask you. Do you think Frank Luntz is right? Do you think liberals diminish the big lie by saying no serious people believe that and could pay the opposite of what Frank's talking about? And a third subpart, do we diminish the big lie by using that phrase as shorthand? Should we be performing a better service by calling it every time the attempt to overturn a Democratic election?
Well, I do like the last one best myself as somebody offended by the fact the Republican Party appears to be holding the Salem witch trials here for anybody who believes that facts are important and our democracy runs on them. To your question and Frank Luntz's comment, I think he's half right. It's true a big chunk of the Republican base vote will tell you on a poll that the election was quite, quote, stolen. I'm not quite sure how much passion is behind that view beyond the core, Trump wing of the party, because you can look at other polls of Republican voters that show clear majorities, more than half, want to move on beyond Trump. They don't really want him to run again. That said, they won't trash him because there's kind of a team loyalty thing here. The other thing we have to remember about the whole big lie psychology is I've been doing campaigns since the 80s. And after you win or lose, there's always grumbling. Well, those other guys stink. They stole it. There were criticisms of George Bush in Florida, stealing the election. The problem we have now is that Trump, with all his venality, has put this thing on a huge amplifier instead of tamping it down like a president ought to do and convince people in the party that there is something wrong. And then you've got these toadying legislators in various states. There's a new bill in Texas, which is far worse than the Florida one even, kind of playing that game. So it is a huge problem. As to losing the midterms, yeah, I think there's a risk some MAGA voters will stay home, but I'm not sure it's a big material risk. I think there are other things the Republican Party is doing, like not taking the opportunity to talk about policy, because Biden has given them an opportunity for a clean, fair, thoughtful debate on spending policy, and running around with this this silliness and this internal purge that they seem to be obsessed with. That is going to hurt them in the midterm elections. They're not focusing on where the win could be.
Jason, I didn't forget about you. I got one for you. Feast your eyes and ears on Lindsey Graham. Here he is tonight on Fox News.
I would just say to my Republican colleagues, can we move forward without President Trump? The answer is no. I've always liked Liz Cheney, but she's made a determination that the Republican Party can't grow with President Trump. I've determined we can't grow without him.
They can't go on without him. They can't grow without him. Jason, have you ever?
Look, I've never, he sounds like a 90s R&B singer, like I can't go on, I can't imagine my future without you. And as usual, Lindsey Graham has about as much political integrity and stability as a weather vane. Here's the problem, though. If you can't move on without Trump, that's fine if that's how you feel in your heart, but he ain't going to be on the ballot. Donald Trump is not going to be on the ballot in 2022. So if you make him your most powerful avatar and catalyst and motivator, it's going to be a problem. And Brian and Mike, this is the thing I always think of. I think of the number 79,000, right? 79,000 people in Georgia who didn't vote in the 2020 election came out and voted in that special election earlier in the year. And Democrats got 2 Democratic senators from a state that nobody imagined that was possible. That was because you had people who didn't just believe in the value of voting, but had been convinced after winning an election that going out and putting in the additional effort was worth it. That is the problem Republicans are going to have. In these close races, how are you going to convince people that this is going to be worth their time? Democrats are not going to have that problem. They just have to face voter suppression. So Lindsey Graham may be right in his heart, but if Donald Trump is not on the ballot, you got to get something else to incentivize people. And if he's not there, you're going to lose seats that otherwise they should be competitive in.
That right there is what makes those Morgan State students so smart. Both of these gentlemen have agreed to stay with us. We're going to fit in a break, and coming up, it's been called un-American and Jim Crow 2.0, Florida's new anti-voting rights law, and the larger push to make it harder for Americans to vote generally.